Good afternoon and welcome to another enlightening session of OLC4O Term 2B, brought to you by WASA Distance Education Center. I am your instructor, Mike Laverty. Thank you for joining me on this sunny afternoon. Hopefully it's sunny where you are or whenever you are watching this broadcast. Today's date is Wednesday, May 31st, 2023. Today's date marks class 26 of our classes together. So we've got about 8 more to go. So we're really winding this thing down, and we're going to wrap up our discussion of Unit 3 today. So there's 2 more assignments left to discuss in Unit 3. That's assignments 38 and 39. So so thank you for joining me on what I hope turns out to be an enlightening session of OLC4O. Hopefully we learn a few things along the way, and we can get you going and working on your assignments. So we are almost done week 7 of Term 2B. Just want to let all those potential grads out there know that June 9th is their deadline for submitting their coursework. So if you're a potential grad, please keep in mind that you need to submit your work by June 9th. Any other students, you have a deadline of June 16th. So it's coming up very, very quickly, right? So you've got, about 3 weeks here to go to submit your assignment. So not a lot of time. So please get them to me as soon as you can, especially if you're working on stuff. It's best to just hand in what you have now. It'll give me an opportunity to mark them, get them back to you faster, and you can get some feedback on your work. If you can't submit your work by June 16th, then you would need to register for the summer term and then start your course all over again. So we're trying to avoid that from happening, which is why I will remind you of those dates every class for the remainder of this term. So we're wrapping up our discussion of Unit 3 today, which means that the last class of Week 7 will be jumping right into Unit 4 and then giving us lots of time for some preparation for the final exam. Giving you all the opportunity you need to get ready for that final exam. So, and I also want to mention that, during my classes, I give you lots of information that's not directly related to the assignments, but I try to focus my discussion on things that are going to help you write that final exam. And hopefully things you're going to carry with you after you finish this course. And these are like the foundational issues of, reading texts and writing texts and just becoming an expert in, well, maybe not necessarily an expert. I mean, I don't even consider myself an expert. I've been doing this for many years. But just improving our ability to look at a piece of writing and just to size it up and to ask ourselves some very important questions about, who wrote it, why they wrote it, how they wrote it, and then applying that to our own writing, right? So just being very purposeful and, thinking about our audience, thinking about who's going to read our writing. And that's going to produce the best results. So thank you for tuning in. This class broadcasts live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 1 p.m. to 1:50 p.m. Central Standard Time. Sometimes go a little bit over depending on what we're talking about. You can always phone into the studio at 1-800-465-7144 or in our area code 1-807-737-4017. We're on the air at 91.9 FM. You can also listen to us on Bell ExpressVu, channel 972. And you can enter the meeting ID 417-6699-799 on the Zoom application. So that's zoom.us or the Zoom app. And when you ask to join a meeting, you can just put in my code. That's 417-6699-799. And of course, all my videos are archived on my YouTube channel. So check me out, Laverty space WASA. All of my classes are on there. You can go to my playlist, look up OLC4O, and I have videos from Term 1B and videos from Term 2B. So they cover the same assignments, and If you're having trouble finding the assignment, you can always send me an email. You can contact me. So you've got two ways. So you can simply just try your best to find the right YouTube video. But if you're having trouble finding the YouTube video that talks about the assignment that you're working on, just get in touch with me, and I can direct you to the right video, and or even better, just guide you through the assignment that you're having trouble with. So yeah, just a quick note: if you do have any assignments, we're about 3 weeks to the end here. So if you've got any assignments you're sitting on, please send them my way. I need to mark those right away, and because time is running out. You can email me directly to submit work, or just ask me a question at mlaverty@nnecschools.org. That's mlaverty@nnecschools.org. You can find me on Facebook, Laverty space WAHSA. That's Laverty Wasa. Send me a message. Send me your coursework. Please phone the studio toll-free, the Wasa office in Sioux Lookout at 1-800-667-3703. That's our free long-distance number. Call us if you got any questions about your assignments. And so, if if you've been taking this course for 6.5 weeks, and you've got a little bit less than 3 weeks to go, this is kind of where you should be at. You should have units 1 and 2 wrapped up. Let me just see my calendar here. So, let's see, a week from today. So we have 1 week. Yeah, you've got 2. Yeah, you've got 2.5 weeks. 2.5 weeks left to submit this stuff. So 2.5 weeks is not a lot of time to complete, half of Unit 3 and all of Unit 4, right? So you got to get on top of that. So please reach out to me with any questions about that. Now is the time to do it. And, you should read up to Chapter 9 of Jimmy Comes Home. So that's my suggested progress to you. And then once again, if you've got any assignments sitting around that you've built up, just please get those to me right away. All right, so here is today's lesson. We will look at our words of the day. We'll look at today's headline, and then we'll delve into those 2 assignments, right? So Unit 3, Lesson 15, Assignment 38, and Unit 3, Lesson 15, Assignment 39. Your learning goals are to review the process of using a graphic organizer as planning for an information paragraph. That's assignment 38, and to review the writing process for completing a journal entry. That's assignment 39. So I'm just going to correct my own grammar here. So I don't like that first learning goal. Review the process of using a graphic organizer as a planning tool. Look at that. Once you read it out loud, you catch the mistake. So I think that mistake was there yesterday, and I didn't catch it. Or I sensed something was off, but that's the way it should read. So it's all part of the plan, people. So when you read things out loud in combination with looking at the words, you catch your own mistakes. So I have revised my own learning goal for you. You will review the process of using a graphic organizer as a planning tool for an information paragraph. So these planning tools I find are really effective, and I encourage students to use them in their writing process, right? Planning is a really big part of the writing process. Sometimes you know what you want to say, and you can just jump in and start saying it. But I find that sometimes you need to do a little bit of planning. So your success criteria will be to use a graphic organizer to create an outline for an information paragraph. That's assignment 38. And to practice the writing process to complete your journal entry. So we're again focusing on that writing process, the 5-step writing process, where step 1 is the planning process. That's where we are creating outlines, using graphic organizers, just using ways to map out where we want to take something. We're not sure where it's going to go, but we have a general idea, and that's why we use these planning tools to kind of guide our future writing. Step 2 of the writing process is writing, right? So I often find that a little bit confusing to just think about and talk about because it's kind of weird to have one of the steps of something to be the thing you're doing itself, right? If there was the 5-step guide to fishing and fishing was step 2, you'd kind of wonder. But step 1 is planning, and that's just simply brainstorming, jotting down ideas. Step 2, writing, is just where you simply write, and you don't worry about grammar and organization. And you don't really. That's the way I look at step 2. You don't really look at where it's going to go. You just go. You just press the accelerator on the gas. Whatever metaphor you want to use, right? And then you just simply write. And then once you've got a whole bunch of stuff, you got some raw content you can work with. Then you go to step 3, which is the revision process, and that's where you reorganize what you wrote. You start to look for patterns. You give it a second thought. You might give it a title. You might start to chunk things up into paragraphs and sort of see it take shape. And then we have the editing process, step 4, and that's where you're looking at the nitty-gritty, like the line by line, word by word, paying attention to commas and grammar and punctuation. And then step 5 is where you publish your work, and that's when you share it with somebody else. And so usually, for most people, is they'll plan, they'll write a bunch of stuff, they'll do some revisions and some edits, they'll go back, they'll write some more, they'll do some revisions, they'll do some edits, they'll go back, they'll write some more, or they'll cut some stuff out, right? And you kind of jump back and forth between stages 2, 3, and 4, and then, or maybe you might even do some more planning. Depending on where this thing goes, and then you finally share it. But we'll walk through that today. So I've got some images of the day. I love these political cartoons. I was a huge fan of the Far Side comics when I was a little boy, and I even wrote Gary Larson, the author illustrator of the Far Side, a letter. And I got a form letter back. I'm not sure if it was actually from him or if it was just like this standard postcard that they give to people when they write to him. But I think it's stashed away at my mom's house somewhere. I hope. I'd love to dig that up and have a look at it. But in any case, these are very similar to the Far Side. They're one-panel gags. And this is just to kind of go back to yesterday. So in the first one, you've got people digging in the desert looking for treasure, and there's a treasure chest marked job, and the person's voice says, "Yes, found one." On the second one, we've got it can feel that way, right? We put all this work into finding a job, to finding a career that we love, and the other joke is essay assignment, what I did on my summer vacation, and the little boy is holding up his cell phone, and his very stern teacher says, "No, I don't want to, quote, just check your Facebook page." And I bring that one up just to illustrate how writing has changed over the course of the decades, which it always has, right? Writing has always been evolving. Writing has always been different, and people have different ways of communicating with each other. But I think with this course, what we're really trying to do is trying to find some universals, trying to find some things that more or less stay the same from century to century, from decade to decade, right? Just the commonalities, the universal truths that go from, that get passed on from the generations, right? So. And I think that like these words are I wanted to discuss words that we have to do with searching and trying to find things, and I'm trying to connect that back to what we talked about yesterday in Monday's class. Trying to find a job, seeking out employment, seeking out a new path in life. But I'm also trying to connect these words to the writing process itself, and I think that writing, in a way is a search, right? It's a search for meaning, and this is something. It's not my idea. I wish I could take credit for this one, but I've actually, I've tried to track down who said it, but and a lot of people have said this, but this idea that writing is a way of thinking, right? And it's and I think that's, when I was a kid going to school, it was sort of assumed, or at least that's the impression I got from my teachers, with that, like, you do your thinking in your head, you think about what you want to say, and then writing is a way to capture your thoughts, right? That's what writing is for. It's like these thoughts in your head and these ideas in your head. You write them down to express to other people what you're thinking. And of course that's true on some level. But maybe more importantly, writing is a way to let us think, right? And we think through our problems through writing, and we search for meaning through our writing, right? And we have like a foggy sense of what we want to say, or we have a memory of something that we did, or there's something inside of us that we want to say, but we don't really know how to say it, or why we need to say it. But then once we write it, once we kind of go on that journey, once we search, then we kind of find that meaning, I think. Um, so with that in mind, here's an Anishinaabe word. It's nandawabam. That's a verb which means to look for, to search for something. Nandawabam. In English, we have the word search, which means to inquire, investigate, examine, or seek, conduct an examination or an investigation. From the Latin word circus, which means to go around, or a circle, right? So sometimes your search for meaning will circle back on your original idea, right? But you'll have a more richer, deeper understanding of it by looking at it from many different perspectives, and then kind of coming back to where you started. Mikigaade is a verb, which is it is found by someone, they find it. Giwitashka is a she or he goes around in a circle. Some more English words. Examine, to inspect or scrutinize carefully. So I think you should be examining your rough copies of your writing. You should be inspecting them and scrutinizing them. Scrutinize is a great word, right? That's just to go over every detail and with great effort. Yeah, scrutinize, to examine in detail with careful or critical attention, right? And I think I like that word care, right? You want to take care with your writing. You want to put the care into your writing to make it to be careful with your words, and to give thought to each one. And investigate, to examine, study, or inquire into systematically search or examine into the particulars of, examine in detail, right? And so I think a lot of these things, with writing, you're investigating, you're examining an idea, you're going into detail, you're inspecting it carefully, right? So, and I think that I've talked about this in this class before, this idea of moving from the general to the specific, right? Just having like a very basic idea of what you want to talk about, like a childhood memory, or how to do something, right? How to put a new spool of line on a fishing rod, how to string a guitar, how to plan an event, right? But then through a careful examination, going into detail with careful or critical attention, you find out what you really want to say, and then you work through your thinking. So here's our article of the day from the Globe and Mail. Employee burnout is getting worse. Employers have work to do. So we've got a pretty great caption, I would say, or a headline. They're using like the pun on the word work, right? So employers have work to do. They've got to get to work to help out their employees who are getting burnt out. We've got a photo of this awesome place to work, and they've got the original Donkey Kong and the Tetris arcade machines. The photo caption reads, "Clio's leaders believe investing in employees is a big part of the company's success to date. And Daryl Dick, he is the that's the photographer. That's the photo credit. And so there we go. We got our headline. Employee burnout is getting worse. Employers have work to do. So this is actually 2 sentences in one. Might be a good time to just briefly talk about the mechanics of a sentence. So as much as possible, you want to have a subject. That's the thing your sentence is about. In this case, it's burnout. And then you have a verb. So the subject, verb. This person did that, right? That's a complete thought, right? So, employee burnout. So it's not just any burnout. It's there's an adjective here. It's employee burnout is getting worse. Employers have work to do. So that's it's kind of a nice balance there between the two parts of this sentence of that headline. And it just illustrates that good writing is often just very direct, right? It is very simple to the point. There's no extra words. It's very lean. So we'll have a little breakdown of this article. Okay, so this lead paragraph, it's the hook and the setup. And I like to illustrate that concept of hooking your reader in, getting their attention, and then setting up, right? Setting up your main idea, and then giving several examples. Employees at Clio can take their dogs to work and have access to a flexible paid time off program. Staff at Schneider Electric Canada can save up their paid time off that the company will augment for a paid leave of absence down the road. And Capital One gives its employees a quote, invest in yourself day every month to do whatever recharges their souls. So that's great. You've got the hook and the setup. You've got 3 examples from 3 different companies, 3 different approaches to supporting their workers who are getting tired and burnt out. These are just some examples of what employers across Canada are doing to prevent burnout amongst employees and help them manage their mental health. Okay, so we've got some examples. We know what the author is going to be talking about. And then we kind of jump right into the main idea of the article itself. We've got a list of relevant items separated by commas. The Burnaby, BC headquarters of Clio has a yoga studio, comma, a games lounge, comma, community gardens, and libraries. In addition, comma, the company provides every employee with $2,000 a year for counseling services and a monthly wellness allowance. Yeah, so again, we don't have time to go through the whole article, but I just like to point out to students examples of good writing, and these are professional writers. These are articles produced in, published in the Globe and Mail, which is arguably Canada's most distinguished newspaper. So, and these are the tools they use, right? You grab your reader's attention, then you introduce an idea, and then you back up that idea with examples and details. And that's pretty much the name of the game, right? And it's all very focused, right? So I think, the purpose of this article is to describe, how employee burnout is getting worse and, what employers can do about it, right? So it's gonna stay focused, it's gonna work on those ideas, and it's gonna elaborate on them in hopefully in great detail. Details, details, details. So being focused with your writing and backing up your writing with lots of specific details, that's pretty much the key to this course, right? That's what's going to get you full marks in many cases, right? Just having a focus, having one or two main ideas that that you write about and explore through many different details and perspectives. All right, so that brings us to assignment 38, which is using a graphic organizer for an information paragraph. And this is from your Unit 3 handout. This one's worth 10 marks. You have just learned how to create a resume with a template on paper. A resume can also be created on a computer using Microsoft Word, which is, we talked a bit about that yesterday. For this assignment, you will describe the basics of how to turn on a computer and open Microsoft Office, otherwise known as Word, right? Microsoft Office is like the package of software applications that includes Excel and PowerPoint, Excel, Word. I feel like there's one more that I can't think of it's off the tip of my tongue. Right? But those are the big three, right? So Excel spreadsheets, Microsoft Word, and the PowerPoint software presentation. Those are the big three. Your purpose for writing this information paragraph is to inform. Your audience is an adult who has never turned on a computer. How would this person even get started? Use the organizer that follows to guide your writing. This organizer, when completed, will serve as a rough copy of your paragraph that will have at least 5 or 6 sentences. So this is good, right? So you're thinking about your purpose, right? So you're writing a how-to article, an information paragraph, and your target audience, right? So I guess anybody could read this article and maybe get some information from it, but the people who are going to get the most information from it are those who have never even turned on a computer, right? So they're very unfamiliar with technology. And so this seems kind of easy on the surface, but when you think about it, this is actually a pretty challenging assignment, right? Because you've got to give them as much information as you can in one paragraph. And so you got to think about things from their perspective. They've never even turned this thing on. So you've really got to walk them through these steps and, give them lots of guidance along the way. So what we recommend doing here is using this template as a rough copy, and then you take this template, and then you use it as a way to to guide your final copy, right? And so it's basically just a bunch of prompts, right? So and it kind of breaks down into sentences, right? So you've got your topic sentence, first, second, next, then, right? And then a closing sentence. And so this is how you, right? And then you got to think about that. You might want to think about a good hook for this number one here. That's kind of what we're looking at here. A good way to grab people's attention. So you might want to start like something like even if you have never ... or this this guide will show you how to, or turning on a computer and using Word. We'll use the full name. So you got to like just find your angle. Or you could say something like you're right. Like you came to the right place, or even if you've never turned a computer, these steps will dot, dot, dot. This guide will show you how to, you know, and so you kind of want to think of an opening strategy, an opening gambit, a way to open this thing up. And, you know, and this is your rough copy, right? It's just kind of showing you how to start. So here's your steps. So, you know, first, and remember, they've never even turned a computer on, so you can use this organizer to actually, you know, write down sentences, or you can use it as a way of organizing your thoughts and just sort of giving yourself like some general guidelines on how you want to take it, right? So that's a way of looking at it that I find to be the most helpful, the most kind of meaningful, is like, you know, you don't have to have your sentences completely figured out for this assignment, but the rough copy is just a way of getting started, right? So it's just a way to sort of move things forward. So the second one, the second one is, and then you wanna kind of use those. You want to use those instructions. Like, you've got the steps involved, you know. So first you do this, and second you do that, right? So again, maybe find some different angles. You know, first steps. You know, you could even take a bit of humor. You know, like you could say, take a deep breath, and, you know, look for the power button. And you gotta think there may be a power button, you know, on the monitor. There could be one on the tower itself. And then I'm putting down some notes to myself. You know, need to explain these. You know, is it plugged in? I guess, you know, essentially, like, how in depth do we want to be with these instructions? So if they've never even turned a computer on, you should be pretty in depth, right? So maybe, you know, walk them through the stages of figuring out if the machine is actually plugged in, and then maybe give some guidance on, you know, looking for power buttons. And, you know, you got that universal symbol for power, right? You might want to talk about that. You know, think back to our discussion about visual elements and the importance of symbols and teaching people about things like that. And then from there, you're just simply, you know, going into the steps, right? So first do this, then do that, and, you know, you might want to just, like, even on a separate piece of paper, you might want to list your assignments, right? Like 1, 2, or list your steps involved, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you know, figure out, is it plugged in? You know, find the power button. You know, see the screen turn on. Login, password. With an exercise like this, you'll often forget steps unless you actually, like, sit down and do it yourself, right? And if you've never done this for yourself, then you might want to go and do some research online and try to figure out, you know, you might want to try and figure out some steps for doing this. You know, just to walk yourself through the process on how that would happen. Okay, so we'll keep moving right along. So, you know, once you have your steps figured out, it's a pretty simple process of, you know, first do this, second do that, you know, then do this. You know, if you've got like 5 or 6 steps, then it's like, you know, I would say, you know, first, and then just simply say, then do this. After doing that, do this. And, you know, it's a step-by-step article, so use those connecting words. You know, once you've got that figured out, now it's time to think about this. Then do that. Next, do this. And then find a way to wrap things up, okay? So, and your closing sentence could have some ways you could look at it. You know, you could say, you know, ask for help. If you still have trouble, you know, turning on the computer or using Word. So it's really a two-part process. I should go back to my notebook there. So, and then, you know, we've got the Word. You know, we got to think about finding the program, searching for it. You know, a lot of people don't realize you can just simply search for a program in your computer's kind of main menu, right? Let's see if I could even share my screen and demonstrate that. You know, if we go here to, you know, search, and then we just type in Word, and then the program Word pops up right there. And I can just click on Microsoft Word, and then I'm into the program, right? So right by the Start button on most Windows PCs, you'll see a type here to search. And if I want to know about brightness, or if I want to know about using a projector, right? Or if I want to know about using Excel spreadsheets, it comes up, right? Or Microsoft Office, there we go. Outlook is another one. That's another big part of the Outlook or the Microsoft Office family. All right, I think that's pretty much all I can say about that assignment. So yeah, use that template, use that organizer, or just, you know, use a notebook like this to plan out your steps. And then once you got those steps figured out, then write it and revise it, edit it, and publish it, and share it with me, your teacher. All right, the second assignment we'll talk about is the journal entry, that's success in the workplace. You are to share your thoughts on how the ability to read, write, listen, and speak are all important communication skills if you are to succeed in the workplace. Your response will be a paragraph containing at least 5 sentences. Submit both a rough copy and a final copy of your paragraph. They mentioned that there's a feature found on the website jobbank.ca. And so you could go to jobbank.gc.ca. That's the Government of Canada Job Bank. But there's that online resource, and there's plenty of others you can use to get ideas about you know, the importance of communicating skills, the importance of communication skills in the workplace. I'll show you that real quick. So jobbank.ca.gc. It's .gc.ca. And if we go to career planning, Help for specific audiences. Yeah, there's lots of things you can look for on here. Labor market information. Yeah. Here's our skills checklist. And you know it's kind of a nice checklist you can fill out to just you put your skills in here, and then you put that through the database, and it sort of shows you what jobs you could apply for and things of that nature. So we're going to get into that in Unit 4. We're gonna be talking about, you know, conducting a job search or a conducting research into a career we'd like to do. So you don't necessarily have to do that for this, but it's just forecasting into the next unit. Okay, so step 1A, planning. In a notebook, write down these 4 headings and write down as many words, ideas, phrases, or sentences that come to mind when thinking about these words in relation to succeeding in the workplace. So reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So that's kind of what I would suggest you do. Think about these concepts, and you know, like how do you read in the workplace, right? So what do we read in the workplace? We read emails, we read reports. What else do we read? We read meeting notes. We read policies. We read procedures. We read instructions. Right? So emails, reports, meeting notes, policies, procedures, instructions. And then writing is kind of similar, right? So writing is kind of like the flip side of this. You know, we write emails, we write instructions. What other kinds of writing do we do in the workplace? That's kind of like these two kind of go hand in hand, right? But if you can think of any specific kinds of writing, you know, sometimes you might write an incident report. Sometimes you might write, let's see, a presentation, right? Don't just think of writing as strictly written. It could be multimedia. So incident report, a presentation, you know, a memo, right? You might write a memo or a short email. Then we think about listening and speaking. You know, we listen to customers, our coworkers in a meeting. We listen during training sessions. And you know, how do we speak in the workplace, right? We give instructions, and sometimes we raise complaints. Or we help a customer. Or we troubleshoot a problem out loud, right? That's sometimes the best way to solve a problem, right? Is just to sit down with someone that you work with and just kind of jot down or you know, just speak your mind and to sort of get their feedback on it, right? So that's what I would suggest you to do there, right? So step 1A, just write down as many ideas or things you can think of. Step 2, draw upon your own experience in the workplace and or write about where you'd like to work. Make some connections between the ideas you generated in step 1, planning, and a specific field or type of job. For example, you could write about customer service, construction, housekeeping, administration, etc., right? So that's what I would do for, step 2, right? So just try to jot down some specific workplaces and jobs, like, being a caretaker, a welder, a nurse, teacher, just think of, you know, I would, I would try to find, one or two you can write about. You can easily write about. One's probably the best, right? So, if you can take, like, one of these professions, or, just one of these fields, you could do a cook as well, and then why the communication skills are important, right? So, list specific, right? Very specific communication skills for this job. It's going to make for much better writing if you can focus on one career or one kind of career, right? Like the sciences or the trades or the arts, the humanities. Find one way that you can focus your writing, and I promise you it'll lead to some better writing. Step 3, revise. Review what you wrote for steps 1 and 2. Now it's time to find the main idea that will connect everything and create a focused paragraph to capture your reader's attention. You might want to draft a topic sentence that will serve as the hook to introduce your main idea. Okay, so and so again, we're using that writing process and using the 5 steps of it and doing some planning, right? So what's my hook? So find, I would introduce a job, a career, a field, and get your reader's attention. That's your number one goal. You could say, for example, working in construction, requires someone to communicate, with a large team. And that's kind of a boring way of putting it. Maybe I could jazz that up. Building a house is not a one-person job. Semicolon. It takes a team that communicates. And, I don't have communicates effectively. I've got some limited experience in carpentry, just mostly building stuff with my dad and things of that nature. But, that's what I do know, is that a construction project comes in phases, and, it has to be done in a certain way. And if the members of the team aren't communicating with each other, then things just aren't going to happen, and it's not going to go ahead as planned. So I would think about it that way, right? So, and then from there, so building a house is not a one-person job. It takes a team that communicates effectively. And then from there, I'm just going to list a bunch of examples about how the various people on a construction site will communicate with each other to get the job done. Okay? So, I think that's pretty much all the time we can devote to that today. That's just the approach that I would take is and that just goes back to what I talked about at the start. So writing is like a search. It's a search for what you want to say, and I wasn't sure how I wanted to approach this assignment, but once I jotted down some ideas, then this idea of a construction worker kind of came to my mind, right? So, or like a carpenter, right? So, but construction is sort of like entails like all of the different fields, like welders and electricians and carpenters and plumbers and all that. They all have to come together to construct something, but those teams have to communicate with each other. And so once I've got that basic idea down, once I've got that opening sentence, the rest of it should just flow into place, right? And it's going to take some thinking. It's going to take some work on my part, but I'm not going to be staring at the blank page, and I'm not talking about communication in general, and it's not just this like vague general idea. Once you give yourself a specific thing to write about, you make your life easier and you produce better writing for your reader. Okay, that's a good spot to end it for today. Thanks for tuning in. We will start Unit 4 tomorrow.